So today we're going to be talking about this book, Letters from Juan. So, what is Letters from Juan? Well, Letters from Juan, how many times can I say that? But Letters from Juan is essentially a booklet that's meant to more or less emulate the feeling of having Juan Tamariz as a friend, and who's sending you, letters occasionally on new things that he's working on, or just things in general, and who's updating you on stuff. So, that's the general feeling of the book. And it's supposed to be a one-time printing of a material that Juan has been working on for the past 50 years. And so one-time printing means that once this print run is done, then it's done, and it's 6 volumes long. But before I dive any deeper, I guess I should explain who Juan Tamariz is. I can't speak for some reason. But Juan is essentially one of the fathers, I want to say, or one of the leaders of the Spanish School of Magic. If you don't know what Spanish School of Magic is, it's supposed to encompass a more natural feeling of magic, and something that's more supposed to target the audience's experience rather than having kicker moments, so magical moments and magical visuals. So it's supposed to target, their experiences. The magic is their experience. So that's the general gist of the Spanish School of Magic. But let's move on to some of the features that this book has. I'm just talking about physical features. So this book comes in a soft cover. So as you can see, it's not a hardcover, but the front page has these nice foiling on the front. So Letters from Juan and The Secrets of Juan Tamariz are all in this silver foil. And you can see that the picture that it's apparently on, that's apparently taped to the book cover, is in this nice glossy finish, I want to say. The rest is in a matte, sort of matte finish. So yeah, but for the inside of the book, you'll get, just nice, thick, long pages of glossy paper. So you won't be too worried about ripping them or damaging them. They're nice and, they're pages. But you'll also get 2 gaff cards, which I won't show in this video, but you get 2 gaff cards, which I would guess are more on the unique side, and they are rider backs, so they're not maiden backs or anything like that, so they're standard rider backs. So that's pretty rare in this day and age. I do have to say though that when I took the envelope out of the book, the glue did kind of remain, and it did kind of stick to the back of the page, so that was kind of annoying, so I just stuck it back there. So yeah, I mean that's one thing, but that's let's just ignore that. So let's just go over the contents of the book, because I'm sure that you're all curious about it. So there's about 6 sections in the book. So first is a foreword, I want to say, by Juan Tamariz, and it perfectly encapsulates what this book is about. So it's basically a letter from Juan. Well, it's formatted as a letter, who's updating you about his life, and who's telling you stories and what this book series is about. So that's so that explains what this book series is about. And the very next thing that you have is the shovel. So the shovel is essentially an effect where you have 7 cards placed in front of you. The spectator picks one, and that turns out to be their selection. So the shovel comes from the fact that you're using the Ace of Spades, that's shaped as a garden spade, to just shovel the cards around. So that's the basic premise of the effect. The next thing you have is color separation, which is just a full deck red and black separation ending that's supposed to come after, I guess, an oil and water effect, and you do need to know some stuff before you get into that. Next thing we have is the rainbow knife, which is basically a color changing pocket knife routine that's supposed to follow a card trick. So you introduce the knife through the card trick, and then you do the color changing knife. So that's that. The next thing is something called pure olive oil and water. So it's sort of a more visual style of oil and water. So if you don't know what oil and water is, it's basically you're mixing red, black cards together, so you're interlacing them, and somehow they just separate. So that's the general gist of oil and water, and Juan's handling of this plot. And the last section is a postscript. So you don't know what postscript is PS. So PS blah 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 blah. So that's what PS means, but yeah, that's whatever. But essentially, it just gives you additional details on the routines that are described in the book, and also just what's following up. So what's next in the series and what's next for volume 2. That's basically it. Yeah. And that's about it for the contents of the book. So they're all pretty generally interesting, but let's go over some of the pros that I found for the book. Well, obviously it's Juan Tamariz's work, so obviously it's gonna be good, right? I mean, if you're familiar with Juan's style, and you know, if you like his work, then I highly recommend this. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much else to say. It's Juan Tamariz's work, and so yeah, you should know what you're getting into and the style of stuff he does. So you know, that's that. The next thing that you should know about is that, you know, it's a well-produced booklet. I mean, it's a booklet, but it's still well produced. I mean, you have glossy thick pages, you have this soft cover. Even though it's soft, it still has attention to detail. So you have the foiled letters, you have some glossy image. Well, it's glossy image, there we go. And yeah, I mean, it's generally well produced. It's 44 pages long, so it is a booklet, but it's, you know, it's well done. But I do have a minor gripe with it, and it is that it is it's not for everyone. That's what I'm going to say about it. Is that you do need prior knowledge of Juan's work before you should get this book, and because some of the stuff does need you to build off of prior Juan knowledge. So for example, one of the things, I'm not going to say what it is, but it does require you to use mnemonica. So if you don't know what mnemonica is, well, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Juan Tamariz essentially released an entire book dedicated to the concept of mnemonica. So the fact that you sort of need to buy a prior existing work to, you know, sort of get into this is a gripe. Obviously, you don't need to perform mnemonica or anything to that extent, like perfectly, but you do need prior knowledge of Juan's work before you get into this. So that's just a minor gripe, but otherwise, I think that as long as you recognize that it's Juan Tamariz's work and that it is not for beginners, it's more for intermediate magicians, then I think you're good to go. So the price is $25. So initially I was sort of underwhelmed, I want to say. I mean, it's 44 pages long. There's 4 routines, so that makes it about $6.25 USD per routine. I got it for free shipping, so that was fine. But it's just that some of Juan's other material has been released, well, at a higher price, but like it had better value for the amount of content it had. I mean, mnemonica was $80, and it was like this thick compared to like this, right? So it was kind of underwhelming at first, but then I realized, but then it grew on me because, well, obviously when I can't return it, so that's that. But it grew on me because this has been Juan's work for the past 50 years, if you think about it. It's been his work, and he hasn't really published it. And I think that generally it does live up to its name. It does feel like Juan Tamariz is sending me letters. Sorry. It does feel like Juan Tamariz is sending me letters and is treating me as a friend. I think that's a great thing that not many or not any magic booklets just feel. So I think that this is a well-produced booklet. I mean, even just the fact that it's $25 and it's a limited print run, I assume it's a smaller print run, is, you know, it's probably, I mean, it's the value is probably there because of, you know, lower print runs require you to have more money, and then yeah, you get the point. But generally, I mean, over time it grew on me, and I think that I see the value in it now. But I do have to note that this isn't for everyone. So this is for people, so intermediate to advanced magicians who are already familiar with Juan's work. If you aren't familiar with it, just don't really bother getting it, because I feel like if you aren't familiar with Juan's work and you aren't like familiar with his style, then you're definitely going to be taken aback by some of the stuff in here. And so you definitely do need prior knowledge, like just like dip your toes into his work before you get into this. Otherwise, yeah, you shouldn't get this. But I do think that if you're familiar with this work, with his work, and you know, you find value in using his stuff, then I definitely do recommend Letters from Juan. So overall, that's about it. But I do think that this is a neat little booklet for people who, you know, are familiar with Juan's work. But let me know what you guys think if you guys actually bought it. I know that some people, well, I've read some reviews online, and some people weren't that happy because, you know, some of the stuff is difficult, but you know, I mean, I sort of like difficult stuff, and I'm more or less familiar with Juan's work, but you know, that's to each their own, right? But that's about it for this video, and yeah, see you guys next time.